Send a photo of your right palm so I can take the reading. I sent a photo of my hand. My hand is a bit sweaty. I hope that doesn't interfere. Not at all. Your sweating won't hinder it. Hello lovely people, my name is Emma. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. I'm doing this as if I'm welcoming you into a real place. Welcome to my crib. I'm in a little bit of a silly mood today. So this happened yonks ago. This happened like last year. I thought this would make a fun little video, so now is the time. Two of the things I probably talk about the most on YouTube are religion and scams. Especially online scams. And those two, as you've probably seen if you've watched some of my videos, those two cross over more often than not. So I was tickled pink when a Nigerian priestess scammer contacted me on Twitter, and I engaged in a little bit of a fun back and forth. I saved the conversation because I thought you might get a kick out of it. It also opens some really interesting discussions, so let's do it. Hello lovely people, a very quick interruption from me to tell you that today's video is sponsored. Once again, I am partnering with Yours, the app that has everything you need for your mindfulness journey. Yours is an incredibly feature-rich and personalised app that has meditation, yoga, sleep sounds, breathing clocks, everything you could possibly need. This week I would like to highlight the long COVID section, which is amazing. It has information to help you. It has loads of stuff on managing your breathlessness, restoring your body. Super, super helpful. I've said this before, Yours really has everything that I need. It has everything that I used to have 4 or 5 different apps for, all in one place, and cheaper than any mindfulness app I've ever used. Not only that, but if you go to yoursapp.com/Emma or you use discount code Emma, you can get 60% off your yearly plan. It's such a good deal. It's a great app. I've been using it on the regs. Make sure you check it out at yoursapp.com/Emma. Check out the links down below. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Yours app for working with me once again. Back to today's video. So this is the opening message that popped into my inbox. Hello, blessing and light. Sparkle emoji. To you, darling. Heart emoji. How are you doing, beloved? That's a very intimate opening for a complete stranger. Beloved darling? Goodness me. I'm blushing. First thing I noticed, the person has Orisha in the username. Second thing I notice is that the account is less than a year old and does not have very many followers. Then we get their actual Twitter bio. Prayer emoji. An ordained high priestess, mother of 2. Prayer emoji. Spiritual consultant. Prayer emoji. Traditional healer. Prayer emoji. Cleansing. Branch emoji. Messenger of light. Prayer emoji. Spiritual manifestation. Prayer emoji. It's like a mildly exhausting bio, especially given the amount of shouting. Because I was in one of my cheeky moods when I got this message, I accepted the request and replied. Hello Priestess, this is an honour. You are welcome, beloved. Prayer emoji. I'm Bunmi, an Esu and an ordained high priestess. May the blessings of Oludumare and ancestors be upon you. So this is Yoruba. It's a Nigerian religion. It's not something I know very much about. In fact, I didn't know anything about it until this message, so I guess maybe it was kind of useful in that way. Oludumare is one of the manifestations of the supreme creator god. Apparently it's the origin of virtue and morality, so it's a very nice thing to give a blessing of. They use very limited punctuation in their messages, so I'm going to try and break it up to make it a little bit more digestible. I know I might be a stranger to you, but my purpose to you is from above, and you should try to understand things and trust the timing of the universe, that nothing happens without a reason. And I've messaged you because I was drawn to assist you by your guides. I had to start doing some digging into Orisha to try and understand what this person was explaining and how legitimate these kind of behaviours are in that religion, in that sector of spirituality. I'll include a couple of links down below. These are from the perspective of somebody who believes in this religious practice, who practices Orisha, which obviously I don't believe or agree with, but that's a very useful way to know if somebody is scamming you, because this is going to launch into a bigger conversation right before we get to the rest of the message. So when you're scamming someone, you have to either know a lot about what you're talking about, or you need to fairly reliably predict that the person you're talking to knows nothing about what you're talking about. So that if you're wrong, especially on an ancient complex religion, which requires, years of training and learning to, if you were going to be ordained in this religion, you would need to train for a long time to know exactly what you were talking about. And a person who's just a scammer isn't going to do that. They're going to do surface level research. So they're relying on you as a whatever random British person on Twitter. They're relying on you knowing nothing about this religion. So that's why we've got some religious sites for information down in the description, because it's a good way to know what makes a scammer. So back to this message. I might be a stranger to you. My purpose is from above. I've messaged you because I was drawn to assist you from your guides. So this website, Orisha Wisdom, has a page on how to recognize scammer priests online, which is super helpful if you are interested in this kind of spiritual stuff. So one of the myths here, a reading is done on my behalf without my consent is okay because the priest knows what they are talking about. This is a huge myth. In the Orisha traditions, this is how it works. A person goes to a priest and the priest performs divination on the matter at hand or a general reading. Can a reading be done on your behalf when you're not around? Sure, but only if you consent to it and with a trusted priest. Having someone that you do not know email you, message you, or send you a pigeon with a note saying that Aoife stated XYZ, this is a huge red flag of someone who is unscrupulous. Good to know, great key point, and I think this goes for most religions. Priests don't tend to reach out to random strangers over Twitter who show no interest in this at all and say, hey, your ancestors are guiding me to you. That's not how it works. Even if you believe, that's not how it works. I think there's a couple of facets to why scammers tend to use these particular smaller, lesser known religions and use those to try and scam sort of Western Christendom, what is traditionally Western Christendom. One, the most obvious thing, like I mentioned a minute ago, the less you know about something, the easier it is to convince you, because you don't have any existing knowledge to combat what is misinformation, right? That's why education is the best thing for preventing misinformation from spreading. The second thing, and this is more subjective and something that comes from kind of my reading on the topic, I do find this really fascinating. I think there's an element of almost fetishization. Maybe that's the wrong word, but the way we in the traditional Christian West view the culture of distant countries that we don't know much about, the culture and the religions of other places, we see and experience that on a different level than we do the religions that we grow up with, traditional Western religions. There's an article I read ages ago that I will find and put in the description. There was a French doctor of psychology who worked at the French consulate in Mumbai. I believe it was him that coined the term India syndrome, or if it wasn't, then his book sort of revolved around that. But he gathered information over the 30 years or so that he worked there on the cases he worked on, which kind of became known as India syndrome, which is a very creative name for it. But essentially, travellers from France, and this is true of other travellers as well, but he was obviously working for the French consulate. A lot of the travellers from France started to exhibit strange psychological changes and changes of behaviour. Very occasionally, obviously this is the very small minority, but people would experience psychosis, extreme delusions. Like I said, I'll find it and put the link down below because it explains in much better detail than my trying to remember and explain it to you. But essentially it's sort of a combination of culture shock, which is something that usually manifests itself very quickly when you go and visit a culture that is extremely different to your own, with this imagined experience of what it will be like to go somewhere and go on a spiritual journey. People essentially bring all their emotional baggage and trauma to, say, India to see gurus and to have a spiritual experience with all those cliches and stories that we grow up with about what that is like, and get there and have to confront all of their emotional traumas, combined with this culture shock, the feeling of a spiritual awakening must be happening, and it can result in this India syndrome. And there are similar kind of conditions documented for, say, people having religious trips to Jerusalem. And I kind of I postulate, this is just I guess this is a largely unsubstantiated theory, but I feel like that those cliches that we have in our mind, the idea we have of certain religions, of certain cultures and their spiritual practices being exotic and other, I think that plays into how we experience scams. For some reason, we see those spiritual practitioners as almost higher in some cases, as more genuine. There's something, because it is so deeply spiritual and exotic to us and different, there's something more truly awakening in that than if, say, a Catholic priest messaged you and was like, pay me $100 and I'll pray to remove your sin. I feel like I'm probably not explaining where I'm coming from very well, but it boils down to this. My perspective boils down to we react very differently here to spiritual practices, cultures, and religions of places that we don't know about. Like I said, I didn't know anything about Yoruba or Orisha or any Nigerian traditions or spiritual practices before this Twitter conversation, and I can pretty comfortably assume that my friends in the UK are the same. Based on what I've been looking up online, I think this is quite common in the US, of people being worried about whether something is a scam or not when they're getting into this tradition, so I think this is one of those amazing, exotic, other religions that just seem so much more spiritual and wonderful. And attached to that is this kind of idea that, well, a priestess of this beautiful religion wouldn't try and scam you, or a person from Africa isn't going to try and scam you. An Indian guru isn't going to try and scam you because they're so spiritual and it's so magnificent. Well, the reality is anyone from anywhere can be a scammer. A person in Nigeria is just as likely to scam you as a person in the UK. I think a ton of our internal biases and our lack of cultural awareness play into how these scams work, and I think it's a great example of just another reason why it's great to learn about other religious practices and other cultures. Back to Priestess Bunmi. She was drawn to assist me by my guides. Let us continue. Sorry for that long rambly break. I find this so fascinating. So, this priestess has been directed to assist me by my guides. How exciting! I didn't know I had guides. Yes, you do have guides. They always protect you when danger comes towards your direction. And when your heart is not at peace, they know how to restore you. I feel kind of like anyone who's ever been in a car accident sort of disproves that. I just said, wow, that is amazing. Smiley face. Dear, this is a spiritual call from your ancestors to get connected to them, to boost your spirituality so they can assist you on the struggles and situations that you face. How do I call them back? Do they have a number? Have you had an ancestral reading about yourself to know what your ancestors have prepared for you and regarding your blessings and breakthrough? No, I haven't. I'm not convinced that it would be particularly useful. The only ancestors that I'm aware of were, I think, coal miners. This is the thing, a lot of religions, pretty much all of them that I know of, place an importance on, your family legacy and your ancestors and the idea of them guiding you. And I guess part of that is because, they're dead, so they have access to knowledge on a higher level. But even so, the further you go back, the more illiterate my ancestors would have been, the more probably bigoted and biased, and their whole experience of the world would have been based on, however many hundreds of years ago. I just don't think they're going to be very useful in my daily life, unless they literally are going to be like, watch out for that bus. I never have, no. I think my ancestors were mostly coal miners. I made the same joke a year ago. I think my ancestors were mostly coal miners, so they might not have the contact know-how. It immediately ramps up. Send a photo of your right palm so I can take the reading. I need to read your palm to see the vision. Anyone out there who's ever done palm reading or had palm reading done, even just for fun? Does it work over photos? I feel like Twitter especially compresses photos a lot. I said, oh, okay, one moment, blessing emoji. I took the weirdest photo of my hand that I could. It's hard to make your palm look weird, so I just clenched it. I have double joints in my fingers, so I kind of made the weirdest shape, and it just made my hand look kind of red and freaky. But I sent a photo of my hand. I'm laughing at my own messages. I'm sorry. My hand is a bit sweaty. I hope that doesn't interfere. Not at all. Your sweating won't hinder it. I take $30 for the reading. I donate this money to the Rural Orphanage Foundation in Ijebu-Ode. This is done to uplift your spirituality so it can be accepted by your ancestors. I said, that makes sense. How lovely. Bear with me a moment. I said that makes sense. It doesn't really. Surely my ancestors know about all the other charities that I regularly donate to. But hey, if this priestess is manipulating the truth a tiny bit just so that a local children's charity can get some support, whatevs. What I then did was obviously not send $30 to Priestess Bunmi of Twitter. I looked up the charity that she mentioned and found the closest thing, which was a charity called SOS Children's Villages. And I found their website and I read a bit about what they do. So SOS Children's Villages support at-risk children in different areas across the world. With your help, we can continue to offer children without parental support the chance to grow up in a supportive family environment and provide vulnerable children and families with access to education, healthcare and support when they need it most. Sounds genuinely like a great charity. I'm happy to support it. Maybe this person genuinely would have sent $30 onto this charity, but by going directly it means there's no question. As tragic as it is, thinking the best of people, especially when it comes to internet scammers, is not always the safest option. So I went directly to their website, I found the donation link, and I sent them $30. I found the Children's Village charity and donated. Okay, that's good. Hang on while I take the reading. Your ancestors will reward you for donating to the poor. Which again, lovely of them. I totally get their motivation. What's wrong with the other donations that I've made in the past? Then I got 10 minutes pass and I get this amazing photo, as though she has just performed the reading using whatever materials these people use to contact my ancestors. My dear, according to your readings, it revealed to me that you have a bigger future, and they are blessings you should have received a long time ago. But due to blockages that have been delaying you from getting those blessings. So until the blockage has been removed, before you can start moving forward in life, financially, interesting to me and endlessly funny that is the first one, because how do you rope people into a scam? Before you can start moving forward in life financially, emotionally, spiritually, and otherwise, spiritually is the last one as well, financial first, spiritual last, real priestess. Your ancestors requires a ritual of cleansing and connections done on your behalf for them to be appeased. I wonder why my ancestors would require traditional Nigerian rituals to be performed. I'm just very curious as to why that is. Maybe they were converted after death, I don't know. So they can open all locked doors of blessings and hindrance. I love opening a door to hindrance. So they can open all locked doors of blessings and hindrance withholding your blessing and happiness, and they will assist your everyday life. So basically, my ancestors are out there trying to contact me. They've been unable to do so until this random Nigerian priestess sent me a message on Twitter. I feel terrible for everyone who hasn't gotten her message yet. Oh wow, blockages sound bad. How has that happened? You need a spiritual cleansing. Once this is done, you will see a lot of changes in your life. Your blessings will begin to manifest. We fucking love manifestation. Yay! Thinking makes it so. How do I cleanse? I already drink green tea, if that helps. Apparently this was what pushed her over the edge. You seem to not believe the massage I'm giving onto you. Beloved, you are making fun of me. I will pass, but soon you will see why I was sent to you. Blessing emoji. I just want to know how to cleanse. Sad face. For the cleansing to be done, she's back in. For the cleansing to be done, some native materials need to be provided. I said, okay, what kind of materials? Then I got, beyond a shadow of a doubt, a copy-paste message, because she pasted it twice into the same message. These are the traditional material needed for the Ebo sacrifice. Ai ili funfun, life white pigeon, Atarah, alligator pepper, Igba, calabash, Ayin ibali, eggs laid by local hens, also funfun, white cloth, Lai ID 100, hen feathers, and Ipo pupa, I'm sure I'm pronouncing these all wrong, palm oil, and copper. Although they are very difficult to find just anywhere, but they could be bought down here because they're sold in our spiritual store. I'm pretty sure I could find about half of that. I could definitely get my hands on palm oil and copper, and white cloth, and hen feathers. These are the traditional material needed. That sounds very complicated. How does it sound complicated? I can get it done for you. I have your palm already. I will use it as a point of contact when his cleansing is about to take place. Amazing! Thank you. Actually, I'm supposed to perform this ritual on your behalf, being that I'm a priestess. And this materials will cost $120. There it is. There's the scam. Here's the thing. Sometimes we talk about whether or not people are scammers based on whether or not they truly believe what they're peddling. And we talk about this regarding all kinds of spiritual things and religions. In my personal opinion, anybody who is claiming to have access to some higher power and is charging money for it, that person is a scammer. Even if they genuinely believe they have some sort of gift or connection, that's a delusion, because those things don't exist. I apologise if you have that kind of faith. I absolutely do not, because there is no evidence for that being true. That goes for psychic readings, contacting your ancestors, finding your spirit animal for you. If anybody is doing these things and charging you money for it, that's a scam. I do think that people can find plenty of value in doing those things, and I think that The better side of it for me is the personal side. Using things like tarot or crystals or stuff like that. If you're doing something like tarot yourself, yes, you're reading the cards, but the interpretation and application to your life, it's all coming from your own brain. The reason that tarot helps people is because it forces you to sit and think through the problems that you have and the potential avenues you could go. It's your own brain that's doing the work. Paying somebody else to pretend or to imagine by some delusion that they have access to a higher power that is telling you how to live your life, that's a fucking scam. Now, if you want to get your fortune read at a carnival, or you want to give 20 quid to somebody who can draw your soulmate because it's a laugh, I think you should go for it. I think life is too short to police having a bit of fun. But if a priestess on the internet is trying to charge you over $100 for some kind of magical, mythological pretend reading that absolutely cannot be true, that you cannot verify in any way, shape or form, please don't do it. And I know it's personal choice, personal faith, personal belief, but the reason you don't respond to scam texts is because when they know your number is live, they'll keep contacting you, whatever you say. If you have the money to spare and you're doing it because you think it might be true, because it's a laugh, because you just don't really care that much, and you think, well, why not? You're telling this person that their scam works, that they can do this and be successful, which means they're going to continue reaching out to more people, and people who are vulnerable to falling for those scams, and people who don't have $120 to just throw away, $150 because of the $30 for the village charity. Letting this kind of scam happen, especially this kind of online scam, it just feeds the scammer. If they do this for a year and they never get a single person pay them, they will probably give up. They might move on to another scam, but at least they'll stop trying to reach out to people this way. Giving them money tells them that this works, and they'll keep doing it and keep trying to harm other people. That's my preachy message part over. Back to the scammer. Being that I'm a priestess, this materials will cost $120. I see, that's okay. Send me a receipt for the materials when you have them and I will reimburse you. The local store has no receipt. It is located in Ijebu Ode, a rural village. If you want me to proceed, let me know, okay? Okay, please do. Do you have Cash App or Venmo? I'm interested in the plausibility of a village that can't just write out a paper receipt, but use Cash App and Venmo and... Do you have Cash App or Venmo? No, I don't. I could send a postal check. How are you able to donate to the orphanage? This is the only part... Obviously the postal check was a bit of a gaff, but this is the only part where I was being completely genuine. Obviously throughout I've been a little bit facetious because I've been having fun with it, but this person doesn't know what I'm actually like. I could be that nice and naive for all this person knows, but obviously I have been a bit facetious and a bit silly because I'm having fun. This is the only part where I'm being completely genuine regarding like payment methods, and that's it. She's like, no. How are you able to donate to the orphanage? Using my bank. True. 100% true. I know you are not interested in this. You are just playing with me all the way. But soon you will see things that keep you wondering. Don't feel afraid, you can always reach out to me. Peace be upon you always. I am a little confused, but okay, thank you, Priestess. Thus ends my interaction with the Priestess on me. The conversation was a little bit of fun, it was a little bit silly. I got to learn a little bit about a culture and a religion that I didn't know anything about before. I got to find a new charity that does cool work. Like, all in all, it was just a bit of silly fun that I kind of played with and enjoyed and I thought you would like. But it does highlight a huge problem. When I was looking this up, I just looked up like Yoruba scam and like Orisha online scammer and things like that, and judging by the results that I got online, it's a huge problem. It's kind of an amusing, almost like cousin to the Nigerian prince scams of emails past. We can look at this from our biased perspective of people who are exposed to a lot of online scams, who know a lot about how religion can scam people, how people can use religion to scam others, whether they believe in it or not. Like I said, I think you can be a believer and a scammer. But the point of these scams, the part of the reason that they are not brilliantly convincing, and this is what has always been the case with traditional email scams, is that they aren't interested in targeting anyone who might ask too many questions. They're only interested in people who are completely naive, and someone who is naive enough to just believe that the random stranger who's messaged them out of nowhere is in fact a fully ordained priestess and can contact their ancestors. It sounds ridiculous to say out loud. I whacked a pencil with my wild gesticulations. There are people who are vulnerable to that, and that's not their fault. It can be upbringing, just lack of exposure to scams when you've never been scammed or seen anybody being scammed, you've never read about it, then it's surprising what people will do because you like to think the best of people. And before you know it, they're $150 down. It's a widespread problem, and I do think at least one contributing factor is the way we kind of idealize, almost fetishize other religions, spiritual practices in cultures that are very removed from our own. I talked a lot through that. I hope you still found it a little bit of fun. I'll put links down below to some of the websites I found so you can learn a little bit more. Like I said, I didn't know anything about Orisha or Yoruba until this person messaged me, so if you know more about this stuff, then please share your knowledge down below. Let me know your thoughts on this topic. I'm so interested in this intersection between faith and scams, just because we have this idea of faith and spirituality as something that is untainted and pure and precious, and I think we can find it very difficult sometimes to associate that with people trying to rip us off. Thank you so much for watching. Before we go, as always, I would like to give a huge shout out to my giant chickens over on Patreon: Aaron Speer, Amalgam of Neuroses, Amber, Baked Bads, Bert Whitehead, Chantale, Chris Simpson, Connie Wright, Conla Chicken Maximus Lyons, goddammit Conla, Cory Garner, Curious Quacker, Danny, Denny5252, Dr. Mint, L, Faye Gregory, Fulcrum, Gaming Ridge, Gay of Reckoning, George Bush, Henry Curtis, Izzy, Jan Bojarp, Jason Metcalf, Joe Rowe, John Fry, John Smith, Kent Woodward, Chris Convaga, Lizzie Gale, Lynn Dobbs, Mattis McChicken-Nuggetus, Miles Tegg, Mogaringa, Mr. Creosote, Nerd Fiction, Ninja Red, Peter Kerouac, Psyched Dude, Kike, Racing Pig, Rosina Keller, Sarah Shavy, Simping on Emma Thorne, Seriously, Tanklow, Taxman, The Enchanter formerly known as Tim, The Myth Vision Podcast, Tracy O'Rourke, Valerie, and Wasatch Witch. You guys are so amazing. Thank you so much for all your support. Remember to like this video if you enjoyed it, leave your thoughts down below, share it if you found it interesting. Most importantly, have a very lovely week, and I will see you really soon.